So, Father, you were telling us some interesting stuff. You always have these good
little things. Well,
insights into what's happening.
Well, next month, a lot of things are happening. Well, we have Art Under the Stars this Saturday. So this is where faith and culture come together. And I think it's very important for us as Christians. We have this great responsibility to take the invisible love of God and make it visible. So anything fully human is something that we want to raise up and bring for the kingdom of God. And so artists, musicians, those who dance, persons of culture, these members of our community have an incredible important place in proclaiming the gospel of God in their gifts.
Amen.
And we need to acknowledge them, we need to encourage them. And I think there's the Jubilee of Artists Mass that we're going to celebrate Mass for the artists. 5 p.m. at Divine Mercy, and then after at 7 p.m. The great show of the artists displaying the talent. There will be some of it. There's a silent auction, so there's a little bit of a fundraiser that's partly for the Mother Mercy Montessori, helps us pay for the scholarship kids, and we are expanding. The plans to expand this to a second building, and at least get the shell up, which is great. And and thank God for that. And so we're taking baby steps as we grow. And so, but we're very thankful. I think the parents are thankful. The guys are thankful for the blessings we've had not without challenges, but at the same time, nothing good comes without some challenges, right?
Mother Montessori started off as a preschool, right?
A daycare.
To help the mummies.
Actually, it started with Catechism of the Good Shepherd. So it was just teaching religion using the Montessori method. And through Catechism of the Good Shepherd, then it was like, well, why don't you can teach math and English this way? And I said, let's look at this. And then it grew into a daycare, and now primary school. We're growing up all the way to standard 6. So,
wow.
So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, so thankful for that. The next June 1st is Family Month. Our families are hope. Families, they're on the pilgrimage of hope. And I think, boy, do we need hope for the family right now. It's tough. Marriage and family is very, very difficult. The culture,
and always under attack.
It's very difficult. And so as a community, as a society, we want to build our rhythms of life that's conducive to a family. I went on a retreat, annual retreat, and I went back to, I was born and raised in Canada, and I went back there, and it's gone so much where the culture itself, I was visiting some of my buddies, it's hard just to have family time. Everything is just separated and pulled. The meeting time is not conducive to the family. And so it's very important that as families we make decisions that foster this opportunity where families can get together, our recreation, our celebrations, the rhythms of life. And so we really, as Christians especially, want to make an effort to this. So to have a family month in June, which is also the month of the Sacred Heart, where we can renew our dedication to have Christ in the center of our marriages, our families, and the work and recreation, everything that is beautiful, a part of the family. I think that's great. So in light of that, the Human Development Ministry that proposed a Families Act, and there's one very good part of it that was addressing how we care for the elderly. You know, and I think when we are thinking of a family, we're thinking about every member of that family, from the babies in the womb of mothers to the elderly. And to have this culture of the family, we can't forget the most vulnerable members, the most dependent members of the family. And that's to our credit as a society if we serve them well. And so I think there's a real sincere effort to try to serve our elderly and ensure that the family is responsible for that. You know, I think really as a church we need to proclaim that. We're a young population, but as we get older, we want to realize that we want to walk with our elderly. And our grandparents, to have the young people be able to have opportunities to meet with the elders, to build those bridges, because there's a wisdom that is handed on. Sometimes you have these families where the grandmother speaks one language and the grandchild speaks another, so it makes it all the more difficult. So I appreciate that, because when I serve at the hospital, I have noticed there's occasions where without judging the family member, because there could be many things they're going through, but they say, I can't take them back. Right? And they say, I can't take them back. And so whatever it is, they don't take their elderly brother, mother, father back into the home. And we can't have that, right? We have to find a way where, or if that is the situation, we have to find a way where the community, the extended family can supply that. It shouldn't be the government that comes in and fills that hole. Now eventually, the government has to support it. But the principle of subsidiarity as Catholics, as much as the government does their thing, we really want to encourage that we as families must take the personal responsibility of our members. We're responsible as much as possible. And if there's something absent or makes it that impossible, then the extended family, and then the community, and then maybe the government can come help supply it. But I think sometimes that, say, when you abandon a member in the hospital, now that's very rare still, right? But the fact that it happens here, I find that shocking, right?
Yeah.
But it is, to be a caregiver, it's very difficult.
It is.
Emotionally. So they were looking at that element. I think was very important. There's other elements. Of course, there's a certain concern that we have in the dialogue of these laws that especially are influenced by international communities. To what extent does it affect national sovereignty? How are we, I think very important that we recognize that international treaties are binding only to the treaty language itself. And that's very important. Not the non-binding mechanisms and interpretations and committees that may speak about the treaty. And that's going to be important for us here in Belize to maintain our culture, history, the church-state partnership. Because the binding language of the treaty is not a problem. We can keep the church-state partnership as the gift as it is in the Belize culture and still fulfill our international obligations if we follow the treaty language that's binding. But if we're going to submit ourselves to international non-binding language that doesn't have consensus, well then that's also going to break and shake the church-state partnership.
Right.
But it also, what shakes the church-state partnership, shakes the foundations of democracy and our culture.
Exactly.
And so that's something that I think there's a healthy relationship here in Belize.
Concerned about.
Yes, it is, and rightfully so. These are subtle points, but just to recognize that, okay, there's a pause here. There's serious things that are happening here. Let's talk these things out, and to what extent are we obliging our government officials in their decisions in the laws we're writing? And I don't think we don't have to oblige them with anything except the binding treaty language, not the interpretations, and that's something that would be important. And then there was also a very odd element. The Families Bill didn't have a definition of the family.
And that's very crucial.
Well, it becomes very crucial, especially since we're signatories of treaties that speak of the family as a natural and foundational unit of society.
Natural family.
Very
Father,
important. Natural
mother.
and foundational unit of the society. In our Constitution, the preamble, it talks about the family has a position in the society. Okay, so what does that mean? Right? And it only means something if we're just speaking about the natural family. It has a unique place. However, rightfully so, recognizing the unique gift of the natural family should never cause us to not recognize the other forms of families where the natural family has failed or is absent for some reason. And the fact that when that is lacking, it shows when the government or the local society can come and support it.
Right.
Because it's not like a perfect world we're living in.
Right.
And then
you have families with kids that are adopted, etc.
all these questions have to come up.
Right.
And so I think it's a fair dialogue. And to the government's credit, I think the Families Bill, it became public that they stayed the bill, meaning it will go back to the ministry because there's enough questions that were presented in the draft that realized that, okay, maybe some things were overlooked here and we need to look at this a little again. And so we'll see what happens, right? But I think it should be was a very good example of a healthy dialogue with the government, with the civil society, with the churches, the community. And I think that we need more of that.
Yeah.
We need more of just a very civil dialogue to recognize, a lot of these things are happening and we just have to slow down. And instead of like little clips on and dismissing points over the media isn't helpful. But to really engage and try to understand where are the concerns without being dismissive and polarizing the debate.
Right.
And I don't think that's helpful at all for anything. And there are persons that are anti-natural rights advocates. And I think this is very harmful for the dialogue. And the people, sometimes even in the name of proclaiming human rights, they are taking positions that are anti-natural rights.
Exactly.
And these are very subtle things, right? But I think that's not helpful for dialogue when that begins to happen. Like we really have to create an environment of seeking mutual understanding and dialogue, and as opposed to consultations that really are a photo op. Sometimes that happens. I don't think we want that.
No.
I don't think we want
That's
that.
not the point.
That's not the point.
The point is to really look at the bills and really dissect them and really see where the concerns are.
Yeah. With human development, the Ministry of Human Development, the last 3 years, they had like 7 amendments or bills or policies. It's a law of law.
The Marriage Act,
the Senior Courts was in there, Disabilities Act, the sexual harassment. So I believe there's good intentions, but you can have too much law. Like if you begin to put so much law where the common person can't read it, can't understand it, don't know where they're liable, that affects the rule of law.
Right.
And so I feel that
counterproductive almost in a society.
With good intentions, though, right?
Yeah.
But
But I once heard the road to hell is paved with good intentions. People say. So sometimes you want the best, but it doesn't come out that way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, I think we have a lot of challenges ahead of us, though, as a country. We need to bind together, I think, and I feel that there's. If we can bind together, we can challenge the poverty, the violence, the challenges that are to the family, right? It's going to be difficult, but it's a very unique and important contribution to that. And not only just because of the gift of revelation, mind you, right? The gift of the Word of God, the gift of the Holy Spirit, but just even on our understanding of the human person and reason. Everyday lives. What we do. Yeah. Just having that moral foundation makes all the difference in what kind of society you'll have. Yeah. Like no, I was happy in the Families Bill. They reference immoral habits in law, so they recognize that morality in law isn't just a subjective aspiration. There's actually something that they recognize that immoral habits of the parent does lead to concrete consequences. And I was encouraged by that. I think because that's more consistent with the objective understanding of moral and spiritual values that is based on the human person, human dignity. And so I think that's, like, there's a lot of good things that I think we can, there's reason for hope. And so next month is the month of the family, and it's our families have a hope, and it's, I'm sure there's marriages that are going through difficulties right now. I'm sure there's children who are sick, and I think there's the financial difficulties that families right now perhaps are listening, and I just want to say that there's hope. Our families have hope, don't quit. But we do have to return to Christ. That's for sure. I think the time of giving Christ lip service or saying nice things about the church but never going to Sunday Mass and not affecting our life, that has to stop now. We really have to make our homes domestic churches. There has to be some element of prayer, and that needs to become a priority more than just leftover time in the day if we have time. But to really make it a priority and intentional habits. And Family Month is a great time to do that. If we slipped away a little bit. And so one of the things that we are reading is the Charter of the Rights of the Family. In 1983, there's the Charter of the Rights of the Family based on international treaties and natural law of certain values and way to understand. So I invite the Catholic and Christian listeners who say, okay, I'm getting so confused. What do we believe? Right. And so this Charter of the Rights of the Family came out under the pontificate of John Paul II. And I strongly recommend families, educators, legislators to read it. Educate themselves on that. Yeah, because I think it's a good foundational point. You just got to understand. Okay, that makes sense to me. This is where we stand, and then begin to go from there. So I see you sent a flyer. So there is a flyer explaining about it. I saw a date. I think it's June 3rd. Yeah. So what we're doing there, like this Tuesday. I'm first reading and giving a teaching Divine Mercy on morality and freedom, a letter that was written by John Paul II to the U.S. bishops. And then on the 3rd, June 3rd, we'll start reading through the Charter of the Family and basically read through it and highlight different points of it. On what nights will you? Tuesday nights. Tuesday nights, okay. Divine Mercy for those in the city who want it in person. Like 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock? 7 o'clock, 7 to 8. I think that's long enough, yeah. In the parish hall. Awesome. In the parish hall, yeah. Just to help. Right in the back of Divine Mercy. And so I think it'd be able to maybe give the philosophical background. Like, I'm not a lawyer necessarily, but I invite the lawyers. There's a great complementarity between a philosophical background and the application of law. And so that this Charter of the Rights of the Family would be a great, very good dialogue, and I'm sure that it help. If people are getting confused, it'll help just give understanding of these, especially something as important as marriage and family. Take a pin there, Father, for our viewers. Let me translate this basically. Sure, please do. So Father is going to break it down. So there's been a bill that has been put forward. Charter of the Rights of the Family, yep. But this charter is from the Pope, Pope John Paul II. It's written from 1983. That's correct. And that's a great guide
for anybody that's doing legislation, anybody that wants to know about this new Family Act, etc. And so to educate us, because as Janine and I were explaining to Father behind the scene, the everyday person doesn't even know that a law is being put together or proposed most of the time. And so Father knows, because of the council of being a part of the Council of Churches as a Catholic member, so he gets information that we don't always get. So now he is trickling it down to parishioners and anybody in the city that wants to come and learn about the family charter, right?
Yeah, Charter of the Rights of the Family.
The Charter on the Rights of the Family. So this is written by
It came out of the
John Paul.
It came out of the Holy See office. It was definitely affirmed by Pope John Paul II, but it's more importantly, though, I think rather than being seen as a church document, it draws from international treaty language, and so it aligns with that, and also draws from the natural law tradition. And so it's a great starting point just to get a foundation.
So this is going to be on Tuesday nights.
Tuesday nights.
At 7.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you guys want to start, if you're a stay-at-home mom and you have a little extra time, you can join Father in prayer from 4:30, right, Father? Because I know that's the day that you guys go and pray at Holy Emmanuel, and
sure.
I've personally done it. It's a wonderful, wonderful
Sure.
experience, and it's just about praying for an area in our city that's impoverished and needs upliftment, and prayer is where it all starts. So right after that, Father keeps busy. He's going to be jumping right into this this talk at 7 o'clock on Tuesday night, so mark your calendar. I certainly will. And please do join us. So it is 5 minutes to 8 o'clock, and if you have anything else you want to say before we leave, Father?
No, that's great. I just really want to encourage Family Month. Our families, our hope is a theme for the Jubilee year, and you have those who are called to marriage and family. You have a very important mission from Jesus right now. You have a beautiful vocation, and so thank you for your yes, and continue to strive for that virtue and holiness that you're called to. Right? So.
That reminds me of the Sound of Music, when Maria ran back to the Abbey. And she was running away because she felt like she was falling in love with the captain and his whole family, really. And she ran back and she said, I'm ready to take my vows. And, the Mother Superior, in all her wisdom, said, this is not a place to run away from your problems, Maria. This is a place to face it. And she said, matrimony and marriage is also a way of serving the Lord. And that was beautifully said. I think people need to hear that more often.
That's right.
That marriage is just as much a ministry as any other ministry.
Amen.
And Mother Teresa says, if you want to change the world, go home and love your children, love your husband, love your family, and then you will have a little cell right there. And if everybody is making that effort, all those little cells put together make a beautiful society, a beautiful community.
A beautiful Belize.
And a beautiful Belize. So with that said, I'm encouraging you guys to take up Father on his offer to explain this charter on the rights of family. June is Family Month in the church, and it's a great way to go through that Family Month by focusing on the rights of a family. So do join us, you guys. We hope to see you at the Parish Hall at 7 p.m. on Tuesday nights, starting next week, Tuesday, at Divine Mercy.
Yeah, I know you're shutting off, but just so couples know, we will have a couples retreat on June 14th with Couples for Christ. And the following weekend, there's a healing for families. A group's coming in with a certain prayer service to help families heal of different wounds as well. Wow. That'll be on the weekend of the 21st too.
I heard about that. Okay, so listen out for that, because that's really amazing. I'm sure a lot of people in Belize, especially in the city, know about the healing of families.
Well, actually, that is not going to be identical to that one, but it'll be
a complement to it, for sure.
Complement to it. For sure,
all right, so lots of things that are going to be happening in June. Lots of exciting stuff. So definitely stay tuned, and remember. Art Under the Stars. Art Under the Stars this weekend.
A meeting of faith and culture. Yeah.
Awesome.